All right, guys, so as you can see today, I am joined by Rob from Nord, if you couldn't already tell by his amazingly red jumper, and he is going to talk us through some awesome key points to do with the new Nord Stage 4. And if you are a Nord fan or a fan of synth and tech, please do be sure to give us a cheeky like and subscribe down below. Now, Rob, tell me about the new exciting features in the Nord Stage 4.
Right, well, there are loads of new features, as you might expect, probably more than we can cover in one session. So I thought what we could focus on is all the main new features and also the differences between the 4 and the 3, because there's probably people who would want to know about that as well. So the first major feature, which everyone's probably spotted already from images that they've seen on the internet, is that the layout is different. And that's because Nord have now switched over to a layer-based system. Before, on the previous models of the stage, it was panel-based. You used to have this panel A and B button, which was here.
Yep, I remember.
And it meant you had 2 of everything per program, and you flip between them using the A-B buttons. What they've done now, they've taken that A-B functionality and shifted it into the individual sections. So you've got an A-B for organ, A-B for piano, an A-B and a C for synth. So we've got 3 synth sections now, but we'll come to that shortly. And the reason they've done this is so that you can immediately see what's going on per program. Nothing is hidden at all anymore. You go to a different program, if it's active, it will be on. If it's inactive, it will be off. So you always know exactly what you've got going on in front of you. You've got your volume fader ladder strip faders here, so you can see what your levels are for your individual layers. So the idea being that now all that functionality per program is literally at your fingertips.
Yeah, I mean, I did notice actually when you first came in with the keyboard into the studio today that this iteration of the Nord Stage, the Stage 4, is far busier looking than previous models. But as you said, I guess that's so, as a player, you can visualize the sound you're creating, visualize your patches a lot more as well.
Absolutely, and that is the key thing with Nord. That's why live players love playing Nords, and that's where Nord come from. All that functionality you need as a live player is there at your fingertips. It's not hidden in menus. You haven't got to go scrolling through pages to get to a function you want. If you're in the middle of a song and you want to change something quickly, you just want to go change. That's it.
And that really speaks to the prestige of Nord. You see them everywhere. You turn on the TV, you're watching Glastonbury, you'll see a Nord piano on the stage, and that's it. Like, it's a player's keyboard. It's absolutely fantastic.
And there are lots of good reasons why players use Nords all the time, and that is a key feature, that it is so tactile. You go from program to program, you know exactly what's on and off, and you can get all your key functions straight away, which leads actually neatly onto another new feature that they've brought in here about when we're talking about tactility. There.
Tactility. Wow, what a word!
Invented a word.
Word of the day. Tactility.
So while we're talking about tactility, good word. Another new feature that they've introduced is manual drawbars. So what I've got in front of me is the Stage 4 Compact. So the compact model of the Stage range has always had manual drawbars, but now all 3 models in the Stage 4 range have manual drawbars. So the 73-note keyboard has, and the 88-note version as well. All 3 of them have manual drawbars. You've still got the ladder strips as well. So now this means you've sort of got the best of both worlds. People who have been using Stages before are familiar with the ladder strips. The advantage of the ladder strip is that when you're going from program to program, they show you what the position of the drawbars were when that program was saved. Because of course these aren't motorized, so they don't move when you go from program to program. So the ladder strips will always show you what was open and closed for that particular sound. But of course, you've got the traditional guys as well who like using the manual drawbars to control their sound throughout a gig. If you turn the preset button off, then you go into what we call manual mode, and you can see the ladder strips go off. And now the position of the drawbars will dictate what sound you're going to get.
Wow, what a great feature. I mean, you just said then, you spoke about 3 models. What exactly are those models that, with this iteration of the new Nord Stage pianos?
Okay, sure. So, there's always been 3 models of the Stage, and what that is referring to is the key bed.
Okay.
Functionality-wise, all 3 models are identical. There's no difference between the 3 models. It all comes down to the key bed, and this is another part of Nord's philosophy. As well as buying the instrument to suit the sort of sound you want, you buy the instrument that also suits the feel that you want. So, for example, if you are coming from a piano playing background and you're used to having a fully weighted hammer action key bed, then you get the Stage 4 HA88, fully weighted key bed. If you're coming from like a synth background or an organ background, then you've got the compact, which has got this semi-weighted waterfall key bed. And then if you want something that's in between, you want that hammer action, but you don't want it quite so big, then they do a 73-note version. And an important factor with that middle one now, the 73-note one, is that it has the hammer action fully weighted key bed that the 88 has.
Okay.
So this is where there is a slight change. So the 73-note is fully weighted hammer action key bed. And another point to make about all the key beds is they now all come with triple sensors. So triple sensors means, as you can probably guess, you've got 3 sensors per note. And this means you've got more control over the dynamics of your sound. You can re-trigger notes at lower velocities. So if you are a piano player and you're playing quite fluidly, you're not going to lose any notes when you're playing
that's great.
up and down the keyboard.
Wow.
But all 3 models have triple sensors. So even this compact has triple sensors within the key bed.
So we've covered a few bits over here, but moving down the panel, my eye is drawn to the layer effects. Now, what is new on this side of the panel?
Okay, layer effects. Big change.
Sure.
So because Nord have moved over to a layer-based system now, it means that all your effects are independent per layer. Before, on the stage 3, you had effect sections, but they were per panel. Now, it means every layer has its own individual effects. So if I select different layers here, you can hopefully see that all the LEDs are changing, because it means this effect section here is independent for each layer. So no longer are you sharing reverbs or compromising your combination of effects. Just like on the Wave 2, the effects are layer-based. So you can have completely different settings of your effects per layer. So this gives you a lot of versatility and flexibility when you're creating your programs, because if you have a sound with a certain type of effect that you like, you haven't got to compromise that if you start combining it with other sounds.
Yeah, sure. And if you're a player, you're switching between patches during a live set. It means you don't have to get in and start filling with effects. You kind of know where you are straight away because you've already got everything set up.
Yeah, exactly. If you select a layer, you see that its LED goes orange, and immediately you do that, the effects jump to that layer. So you know when you're fiddling around with your effects here, it's only affecting the layer that you selected. You're not changing the effects on something else.
Yeah. So I know in previous iterations of the Nord stage models, there was the A/B button on the panel that a lot of players used to switch between very quickly to change their sound. How has the Nord Stage 4 addressed this?
Yeah, well, that was a technique. Lots of stage users liked the fact they had the A/B buttons. And they could quickly flip between combinations of sounds within a program. Nord have sort of kept that in. They've got this button here called Layer Scene 2, and it's in pretty much the same position where your A/B buttons were, so it's going to be in familiar territory. Essentially what it means is you can have a different combination of all the sounds that you can flip between without having to change program. So at the moment when it's not lit, this is my main panel. But if I press the Layer Scene 2, you'll see the panel will change to a different combination of sounds.
Wow.
So I haven't changed program. What I'm doing, just like you used to do with your A/B buttons, you are flipping between a different combination of the sounds. So the functionality is still there if you want it, it's just slightly changed. So again, it's a bit like now, you've got the best of both worlds. You've got your individual layers within a section, but if you like the old way of doing things, you can still achieve the same results.
Nord Stage 4. Best of both worlds. So we've had kind of a brief overview of what's new with the panels. We've had a look at the key beds, some of the new features on the Stage 4, but what I really want to do now is deep dive into some of these panels. So let's start with the synth panel. What's new here?
Okay, so this is another big change with the Stage 4. So it's a completely different synth section to what you used to have on any of the previous stage models. And this is all based on the Nord Wave 2, which is the synthesizer that they brought out in 2020. And this
Good time to bring out a synthesizer. Huh?
Oh yeah, tell me about it. And the Wave 2 was the first Nord instrument to really introduce this layers idea. And because this is based on the Wave 2, it now incorporates a lot of that functionality. So you've got a lot more things going on in the synth section. So layers, for example, now we've got A, B, and C, as we mentioned earlier. We now have an extra synth section to the previous stage models. And it just works exactly the same way. If I turn all these down, for example.
Can't go wrong with more synth.
Layer A,
Yeah.
layer B, layer C, and you can
Oh wow,
blend them all
fantastic.
together.
Yeah.
Because everything's tactile, you've got hands-on control of the elements. You've also got a very useful solo button as well, and this works across the whole keyboard. Because you're dealing with loads of different sounds, if you press the solo button, now you can see instantly, you only hear the sound that you're editing.
Yeah.
So this is useful when you're editing your front panel, your effects, anything like that. You can just like a mixing desk.
Yeah. Really helpful.
So you've got your layers here, which you can blend. You've got all the different types of synthesis. Let's go on to here. That you can go through. This is also where you bring in your samples. Oh, everyone likes a Victorian accordion.
Yeah, sure.
It's the best sample ever. But the idea of having your samples in the synth section is that you've got all these controls to then manipulate your samples to shape them any way you want, which is really useful. And then you can blend them all together, mix all your sounds together.
I mean, this is, it kind of just goes on. It's the same story. It seems like the same story all the way through. It's basically just allowing you to be creative. It's making it easier. It's making the user interface much more like creative friendly. So you can see everything, you can touch everything, and you can really start to develop your sound much easier with this iteration of the stage.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And in the synth section as well, you've got this screen here. Now, what this screen is doing is showing you all the different functions within the synth section, because there's a lot of stuff going on here, but obviously they can't fit it all in in the area they've got. So the screen with these soft knobs is how you edit all the functionality very quickly. So for example, if I press the amp envelope button, now the screen is showing me my amp envelope, and this is how I can adjust the envelope for my sound.
Sure.
If I go into the filter, here's my filter envelope. So whichever you're selecting on the front panel,
you'll see on the screen.
You'll see on the screen, and then the soft knobs will allow you to edit those functions. So you've got a load of functionality going on here, all based around the screen, but it's literally at the press of a button and you can see exactly what's going on. So because we now have essentially the Wave 2 synth engine in the Stage 4, they've taken a lot of the functionality from that keyboard and brought that in here as well. And there are lots of advanced features now in the arpeggiator section. So with the arpeggiator, it still works in the traditional way. You've got your different positions, it's arpeggiating the notes in different directions, however you want it to, even random.
Yeah.
But one of the features they brought in from the Wave 2 is poly mode. So what this does, rather than arpeggiating the individual notes, it arpeggiates the chord instead, which is cool.
Oh, nice.
And another new feature they brought in is this feature called gate mode. And this is quite cool. What this is doing, as the name suggests, it's almost like a noise gate letting the sound in and out.
Sure. Oh, nice. Okay.
And when you're in gate mode, then what would normally be your range dial controls how quickly that gate opens and closes. So when it's at 0, it's quite slow. And as I increase it,
Oh, yeah.
you get a more staccato opening and closing. So that's another really cool feature with the arpeggiator section. But because this is taken from the Wave 2, it has even more advanced features. One of the really great features in the Wave 2 was pattern mode.
Sure.
So what pattern mode is a way of controlling your arpeggiators rhythmically. So rather than just doing that, what you can do, if I just play here, that's an arpeggiator, but you can hear it's not just going There's natural rhythm going on. And the way that is working, this is what pattern mode looks like. So it's a bit like almost having like a step sequence.
Yeah, sure.
And you can create your steps. You can decide how long you want the pattern to be. We're up to 16 steps. And then you can pop in the steps that you want and create the length of those steps. So you can create rhythms for your arpeggiators. This comes with presets, which you can go through. But you can also create your own and customize these. So these, you can treat them as like building blocks to get you going, and then you can adapt it for the sort of rhythms that you want. When you save your program, is that those patterns are saved with the program.
Okay, wow.
So when you're going from different programs, all your rhythms will change to suit the sound that you're after. And with pattern mode as well, you can sync them to master clock, which means they'll all run in sync with each other. Master clock also automatically syncs to incoming MIDI clock. So say, for example, you were running your stage 4 with an external drum machine or a sequencer, the MIDI clock from that device, the stage 4 will just pick up and then go, oh, I'm running at this speed, and then all your arpeggiators will be in perfect sync, and your rhythms will be in sync with that as well. So it's a very powerful feature. So with this guy here, if I just get some more stuff going, you'll hear what I'm talking about here. So if I just play this arpeggiator we've been dealing with, and I can bring another one in. If I just solo this one, you'll hear what's going on as well. Now, if you're listening on headphones, you can probably hear that this is jumping from left to right, because as well as doing your steps, you can choose the position of those steps in the stereo field.
Oh, wow.
So I've deliberately done this left and right, so you can hear this changing. And then this one. You can see the steps and the different lengths and how I've moved the position of the steps as well. And I've got that running at a different speed. But everything's synced to master clock, so if I bring everything in together, everything runs together. And if I change the speed of master clock here, they all stay in sync. And if this was synced to a external device, the MIDI clock from that external device would drive this, and they'd all run in sync. So this is a really cool feature that you never had before on any of the previous models.
Well, that's amazing. I guess like so you could take the keyboard home, you can craft all of your sounds, get all of your patterns ready, and then when you do come to the stage, you have complete control over that tempo as well, setting the clock, and also you can have it with the external MIDI clock.
Yeah, and if you're playing live, you might be playing with a click track. Again, MIDI clock will dictate the speed of all this. And another really useful feature here as well, if you plug a pedal in the back, you can use pedal to do your tap tempo. So if you're playing with a live drummer and you've got patterns or anything going, you just want to be in sync with him, you can just tap the pedal 4 times along with the drummer, and then these will all jump and sync. Yeah,
and we know what those pesky drummers are like as well. They keep on speeding up and slowing down.
So actually being able to change your tempo to follow them is actually quite useful.
Yeah, amazing.
So one other thing I should mention about the arpeggiator section is that when you're using the synth section in external mode, is that everything I've shown you can be transmitted out via MIDI as well. So it's really cool. So you can use all these pattern modes, poly mode, to trigger sounds of external devices as well. The one thing you can't do is the gate mode, because of course that's only affecting internal sounds, but poly mode and pattern mode will be transmitted out via MIDI, so you can use that to trigger off external sounds as well if you want.
So one thing that was really great about the previous iterations of the Nord Stage keyboards was that you were able to control external devices. Now, on a first look at the new Nord Stage 4, I can't actually see this function. Is that something that is available?
It is, yeah, and actually that's been raised a few times in some of the videos that we've already shown. A lot of people are familiar with the external section, having a dedicated section to control external devices. And that was really useful, because then you know what it's like. You've got loads of sounds in here, but you might be wanting to use MainStage or VST plugins or an external module and integrate that in with your performance. And that's what the external section was all about. Now, the external section is still here. In fact, I've done a program just to demonstrate how it works now. So essentially, instead of having a dedicated external section, you can use any of the 3 synth sections to be your external section. And it's just simply a case of selecting the layer that you want. And over here, you've got a button which says external. So if I hold the shift button down and press it so external is lit, now immediately we can see that the screen has changed. We know we're external, and you can see how the ladder strip has changed as well. If I just flip that back, turn it off, you can see when the ladder strip's like this, it's controlling an internal sound. When the ladder strip's like this, it's controlling an external sound. And when you're in external mode, the 3 soft knobs become the control for your external device. This might be controlling a particular parameter. So you would set your CC values for whatever that might be. It might be LFO speed on your external device.
Sure.
Most important one, of course, is volume. So it means now you've got complete hands-on control of the level, so you can be controlling your external device as if it's part of your internal sound.
Wow.
When it's not. You can change program, so you can select the program on your external device straight from the front panel. The cool thing with the Nords as well, as people are familiar with, when you save a program, all these external settings are saved with the program, including program change. So when you're going through your different programs as part of a performance, if some of those programs are integrating external devices, it will automatically select the right sound and the right volume, ready to go without you having to do anything. So this is why the external section has always been very powerful. And like I say, now what you can do, you've got an A, B, and C. So all three of these could be controlling external devices if you want to. So you've actually got one more external device functionality than you would have on previous versions of the stage.
So just like a lot of the previous features on the Nord Stage keyboards, you've not just kept them in, you've actually improved on them as well.
Yeah. Lots more hands-on, lots more functionality than you had before, just making the keyboard even more versatile. And the important factor is as well, everything is in front of you for you to adjust at any time as part of your performance.
So continuing our deep dive through the ocean that is the Nord Stage 4, let's explore now the cave that is the effects.
The cave,
The cave,
the effects.
The deep cave full of reverb.
Oh,
so
I see what you're doing.
Yeah,
Yes, so
analogy, perfect analogy.
yes, so we've already established that now the effects are independent per layer, but yes, they've introduced a lot of new effects as well. So as if by magic, I have a program here which demonstrates some of the effects. So there are various effects that they've brought in here now which are new to the Stage 4. The first one is this feature called Pump, which sounds very strange, but what this is, it's creating that whole sidechain effect which has been popular in music. So if I play, you'll hear what I mean about pump.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
And you can change the speed of it. How much it pumps. And of course, if you wanted to as well, all of this you can control using the more functions that people are familiar with the Nord keyboard. So you can assign wheel, pedal, anything like that to the speed of this. But another new feature they've added here, again with the pedals on the back, at the moment, it's the master clock, which is controlling that. But you can plug a pedal into the back and actually do the pumping with the pedal, so you can manually do it if you want to as well, which is really cool. So that is Pump. Another new feature they've added is Spin. So Spin is like a rotary effect, but unlike the traditional Leslie rotary speaker, which has two horns and you get that phasing between the horns, this is the equivalent of having a rotary with just one horn. So it's the same effect, but it's much cleaner. And of course, you can change the speed of it.
Yeah. That's an awesome sound, isn't it?
It's cool, it's cool.
Yeah.
Of course, if you wanted to, you could combine the two together. So this is Pump and Spin together.
Wow, I mean, I think that the spin and the pump sound absolutely amazing, and it's a really interesting tool to have when you're coming up with rhythmic ideas. Really, one thing I do want to know about is your staples, your delays, your reverbs. What's changed there?
Yes, so again, they have added some new features. If we look into the delay section, you've got two new functions in the delay section. You've got flam, which will add a quick repeat, like a drum, to your repeats to create interesting effects here. And then you've got space, which is alluding to the space echo. So this is giving you your old vintage space echo tails to your delays. And then in the reverb section, you've got three new reverbs. So you've got spring reverb, which is ideal for all your old vintage organs and electric pianos. You've got booth, which is a smaller, tighter reverb. So it's not quite as big as a room, but it's bigger than spring. Yeah. So you've got that option. And then right at the other end, you've got the cathedral reverb, which is mahoosive.
Yeah, sure.
And it can be driven completely wet if you want to. So if I just bring up this sound, for example, solo him, of course it's going to sound great on higher sounds.
Feels like I'm in the York Minster. Wow.
Yeah. And another thing to mention about all the effects is that they've all got a variation button. So what this means is you've got a different version of that effect, and it's going to give you a different variation depending on what effect you've chosen. Things like reverbs, for example, it's going to give you a different character to the reverb. And so, for example, at the moment, this is the reverb. What I can do, the variation here is this chorale function. So hold shift down and turn variation on. And what this is going to do is add modulation to the reverb. It's an old sort of like vintagey style effect, just to give a bit more character to the reverb. But if you are choosing effects like a phaser, for example, this is going to give you a different a different phaser entirely, and then the effects will control it differently depending on which version you've got. So you've got a lot of control over your reverb, even over your effects. And if we look back at the reverb, even things like the tone of it, you can have it dark, bright. You can bring in effects on your delays as well. Ensemble, vibrato, chorus, you can bring these in to the actual echoes as well to give them character. So overall, the effects have got a load of stuff going on in them, and you can really shape them to work the way you want. So what I can do here, I'll just show you an example now. If I bring up all these layers here, and you'll see as well, as we mentioned right at the beginning, you can see when I'm flipping between the layers, all my effects change because the effects are independent per layer. So now I can play, here we are with the pump. I can bring that choir. Bring into effect with the mod wheel.
Well, I think it sounds incredible, and you know the way that the layer system allows you to create such beautiful soundscapes, but also have complete control over those individual layers, and also having it so tactile that you can change it at any point. You know, the speed in which you are changing through, and you don't have to look at any menus. You can just quickly change everything. I think it's fantastic.
It's great. All this handle stuff means you're totally in the zone with the performance. You can actually create a performance just out of running sounds off the front panel if you want to.
Yeah, wow, sounds amazing. Right then, Rob, so we've covered so much to do with effects, synthesizers, all this kind of stuff, but I'm sure a lot of people at home want to know what's new for the pianists.
Okay, well, what they've introduced in the piano section, let's turn that off, turn it on, is a new dynamic compressor. So
Okay.
this is in addition to the compressor you get in the effects section. And they've brought this in because people have been using the compressor in the effects section. That works fine. But of course, the way a compressor works, it does, especially for piano, can colour your tone. You know, a lot of people like that. But sometimes you might want something that's going to give you a bit more control over your dynamic range, but without affecting the way the piano sounds. So the dynamic compressor sort of addresses that. It's very subtle, but then of course a lot of things to do with piano is subtle.
Yeah.
Essentially what it means is if you're playing quite quietly, certain notes might get lost in the mix a bit. So you can switch on any of the 3 settings for dynamic compression, and it will, in a sense, lift your quieter parts out of the mix, because it means, as a compressor works, it means you can play louder and you won't jump through the roof, and essentially it's bringing up the quieter parts of your piano playing. So as an example, if I just play an arpeggiator like this, so it is subtle, and if you were a decent piano player, which I'm not, this could be really beneficial for you, because it means you can be playing all those quieter passages and your notes aren't going to get lost in the mix.
Sure.
Most importantly, of course, it means that the compressor is not colouring the tone of your pianos. And you can use it in addition to the original compressor as well if you want to. Or, of course, you could use it in the more traditional way. If I go all the way to the top. So you can use it in that respect as well if you want to. We can mention, just while we're in the piano section, is the unison function as well. The unison function isn't quite the same as the unison function you get in the synthesizer. This is a way of you can change the character of your piano sound. There was a similar feature in the stage 3, but it required you having both panel A and B together. And what it's really doing, it's sort of like detuning one piano against the other and slightly widening the stereo field of the piano. So if I turn it off for a second, if I turn it on, number 1, number 2.
Oh wow!
Here it's getting a bit more honky-tonky.
Now we're at complete honky-tonk. Yeah. Wow.
So you can achieve that style of sound, but just with one layer. So you've only got one layer of piano. Here on the stage 3, you could do that, but you'd have 2 pianos together, and one would be tuned against the other. Now you can do that with one layer.
Wow, awesome. There's so much going on inside just like one program. We've looked at so many different things, but is there also anything that's changed in the way that you would select your program?
Yes and no. So you can still access all the programs in the normal way that you can on all the Nord keyboards. You can turn the dial to go through your programs. Holding shift button will jump through your banks and then your individual pages. What you've now got is 8 buttons here, so you can go between your different programs using 8 buttons, whereas it had 5 before. But what they have introduced in terms of programs, and it's not programs as such, it's what they're calling presets. This is different to programs. And it's a new idea of how you can pull sounds in and customize a program even quicker. So just above the front panel, you've got these preset library buttons for organ, piano, and synth. And as the name suggests, what these are is a bunch of presets of different types of sound.
Sure.
So the idea is when you're presenting with a front panel with loads of stuff going on, it means if you want, for example, if I turn everything off except the piano section here. Say, for example, I want to bring in a pad sound that I can layer with my piano. I could go to the synth section.
And
I can go and find a preset I want. And there is my layer sound without me having to construct anything.
Yeah, sure. Wow.
But it works across the board. Let's say we wanted to pull in an organ sound here. If I turn the organ section on, I could go to the organ presets. I just solo. So we're just hearing the organ sound. I can go through, find the organ sound I want, and see how the LEDs are changing. That'll do. So now I've got my organ section with the organ sound I want. The great thing about presets is, as we've covered a couple times already, all your effects are per layer as well. So when you store a preset, it also stores the effects. So not only are you bringing in a sound, you are bringing in the effects that go with that sound as well. And of course, you can save your own presets. Presets doesn't mean it's just stuff Nord have done.
Yeah, sure.
You can make your own presets up as well and store them in your preset sections.
Okay.
So say, for example, you've made up a really cool lead synth sound or a really cool bass synth sound, and you're starting on a completely different program, and you go, I want that bass synth sound. You literally go into the synth presets, dial through, find your preset, and bring it in, and there it is in an existing program.
Okay, yeah.
And with presets as well, they can be a whole section, or it might just, you want to bring a sound just on one individual layer instead. You can do that, so you've got the best of both worlds there as well. So it's a very quick and easy way of, if you're creating a program, you need this sound, and that sound, you just go, I want that, bring it all in together, and then save your program. So that's like, the difference between what a preset is and a program is.
It's like it's like the sauce on the pizza, and then you add your little sprinkles of whatever you want.
Yeah. If you want some extra pepperami, you go in there and you pull it in. So again, it's Nord thinking ahead for the musician. You know, you're up against it. You're in the studio. You're on stage, and the MD says, "I want this, this, and this." What you can do is go, okay, you go through, find the type of sound you want. If he's happy with that, pop it in, and it's in there, good to go. Of course, you can manipulate it once you've got it in there, but as a very quick way of creating a combined program of sounds, presets are brilliant for that.
Right, Rob, so obviously that was so much information to digest and so many amazing features. I'm absolutely full of information when it comes to Nord Stage 4. Is there anything else, any small little bit of dessert that you might want to pop in there?
Well, they're an optional extra, but I guess what I should mention are the pedals. So Nord have brought out a new triple pedal too, and a new single pedal as well. Other Nord users might be familiar with the Nord triple pedal, which gives you the functionality of an acoustic piano, your unicorda, sostenato and sustain. And that triple pedal will still work on the stage as well, but the new triple pedal 2 has its own dedicated socket on the back. And one of the few things you would do in a menu on the Stage 4 is you can customize the triple pedal. So it will still do all those piano functions, but you can assign different functions to the pedals instead if you want to. So we already mentioned in the effects section how you can use tap tempo to sync your effects with a drummer, for example. Well, you can assign tap tempo to one of the 3 pedals. If you're playing in a pit band, a really useful feature is being able to change programs without interrupting your playing. So you can assign program up and program down to those pedals. The pump function, you can use one of the pedals to manually pump your sound while you're playing. And then that layer flip as well, you can assign that. So you can do a whole load of things with the triple pedal if you want to, or use it for the standard piano style functions. And then the other pedal is the single pedal. This gives you the ability to do all the pedal noise, the mechanical sound. When you're operating a sustain pedal on a acoustic piano, you get all the noise of the mechanics inside the piano, and this helps add character and realism to your piano sound. Now in the past you could only do that with the triple pedal, but now they've brought out a single pedal which is also velocity sensitive, and that is how you can trigger the sounds off. That's the difference between a normal sustain pedal and the triple pedal. Rather than a sustain pedal being just on off, it's velocity sensitive. So just like when you play harder on the note on the piano, the sound gets louder. With a sustain pedal, with this new single pedal that Nord have brought out, the harder you come down on the pedal, the louder the pedal noise. So it's nice to know that that is available as an optional extra.
Yeah, totally. And I think, as you said, it's not just, for piano players, but also for, people that need it, for the pit guys and so on. And you know what, guys, if you have enjoyed this video, once again, please don't forget to give us a cheeky like and subscribe. Thank you so much for coming in, Rob.
You're welcome.
You're going to play us out now, aren't you?
I'm going to have a little funny jam thing.
You're going to have a little funny jam. All right. Once again, thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you again soon. Bye.